Hey crypto traders, we haven't given away a course in a while, so let's do that. YouTube comments. I will choose one from reading the comments and choose one randomly, and we'll give you a free cryptocurrency trading course. So we know we're watching the dollar very closely, and the question as we head into this week is, are we going to set a daily lower high compared to 93.47 and continue the daily downtrend? Or, that's what that would look like. Let's go three scenarios. So the three scenarios are a daily lower high and hold the low, giving us a tightening equilibrium range, a daily lower high and a drop to a lower low. That's the best case scenario for market bulls, crypto bulls, metal bulls, or we just break 93.47 and then anticipate a daily higher low will be the most likely scenario next time we consolidate, and that would be the least favorable scenario for asset bulls. So 93.47 is a key level. And the weekly oversold bounce, if we do get trend change follow through on the daily chart, we zoom out and we know we have tons of space for a weekly lower high to form. And then what we will watch for from there is the dollar bounce significant enough to look for a weekly higher low and an attempted trend change? Or is it just a little bear flag that could drop to weekly lower lows now that this weekly RSI has cooled off? Again, we had been pointing out for a couple weeks that the weekly RSI levels historically bounce in the last 12 years 4 times between 26 and 29 on that RSI, and that dropped down to about 29 last week at the low. So keep your eye on the dollar, because our higher risk assets, and I'm talking about USMJ stocks, I'm talking about cryptocurrency, they are pulling back more notably than our other assets because they are higher risk, higher reward, in my opinion. So Bitcoin, big drop. Now, before we go shorter term and say, is this a temporary bottom, we got to go bigger picture. And this is something that we've been pointing out every week or two for a while now. This is the most important chart in the cryptocurrency space for me, the 2-month time frame. Are we setting a monthly lower high compared to 13,800 or, come on, magnet. So are we setting a lower high compared to 13,800 or not? And it's certainly looking like a pretty solid rejection at this point. 2-month time frame. We got 54 days to go on this time frame. So entirely possible we see an inside bar over the next 54 days. We'll have to see. But the monthly time frame is a little bit of a different picture, because at this point the monthly consolidation still pretty bullish. I mean, look at the size of the move, 38 up to 12.4. To see this retracement, again, a lot of people use Fibonacci levels. I personally visualize whether it's healthy consolidation or not, but that's not really a good teaching tool because that requires a whole bunch of experience. So looking at the Fibonacci levels, this pullback right now, I would say as long as we hold the monthly 12 period, which is pretty much lining up with the 38.2 retracement level, that monthly consolidation remains healthy. If we lose those levels and drop down to 9,000 and below, the odds of our 2-month lower high being set will increase very significantly. So those two levels aligning are important for me because we have two scenarios here. We're either going to set a monthly higher low and then see continuation and test 13,800, or we are going to see a monthly higher low that is further back. Pretty much, again, what we're looking for is this consolidation brief enough to favor continuation, which it currently still is, or is it going to be significant enough that we're going to look for a lower high on the monthly to be the most likely scenario the next time we bounce? And that's a possibility as well if the pullback breaks that weekly 12 period and that 382 fib retracement level. If we get that monthly lower high, that 2-month lower high, we could pull back for the next 4+ months into 2021. We will anticipate a higher low compared to 38.58. That could happen at $8,000. That could happen at $6,000. We'll look for that to form, and then we will look for the break of this tightening 2-month range sometime in 2021. Maybe, I mean, if things got real slow and if we pulled back significantly down to 6,000, we could stay within this pattern until late 2021. So again, that's not the most likely scenario right now, but it is absolutely a possible scenario that I am keeping in mind. If someone's cash, they want to see that happen because this tightening pattern breaking will give some very nice entry opportunities. And it reminds me of gold. We were watching the gold monthly tightening equilibrium that played out for 2 years. And then it broke bullish into this all-time high run that we've seen here in 2020. So long drawn-out equilibriums are great for long-term signals. We'll see if that's what we get. Short-term. Is this our temporary bottom? We just dropped down and held support. Decent reaction to the bulls so far. And we can see the bulls are definitely defending 9,800. We got a bounce initially. We dropped down to a lower low by less than 1%, right about 1%. No bear follow through into a bounce. Weekly 12 period, or I should say 4-hour 12 period exponential resistance is a great visual guide rejecting these bounce attempts. We just dropped down and held 98 again. So we just saw a nice 2.5% bounce from that support level. Clearly the bulls are playing defense. Question is, can they go on offense? And what we have to see right now is a break of 10,360 if we were going to say the 4-hour trend has changed and the daily bounce is underway. Once we change the 4-hour trend, we zoom out and we know that anything under 12,000 is a daily lower high. And we know that a daily lower high will be the most likely scenario, but at least that'll put in a temporary bottom. So that is the goal for the bulls. We're watching the S&P 500 correlation as well, and we'll have to see how that picks up starting tomorrow when the bell rings. Not seeing a whole lot of correlation right now with the S&P 500 futures, which are trading, but we'll see if that kicks in once there's significant volume, and anticipating a lot of volatility this week as well. And if we are looking at the futures chart, we are a bit higher than where we closed on the S&P 500 futures at the end of Friday. So just looking back, the end of Friday, we were trading at right about here. And you can see we're just above that level right now, so a little bit higher. But again, not a lot of correlation recently overnight with the S&P 500 futures. So that's a lot to digest on Bitcoin. And again, have game plans established for all scenarios. That way, no matter what happens, you have some kind of game plan prepared. If we set a monthly high or low and then break resistance, that's one scenario. If we continue to fade and set a 2-month lower high and pull back for the next 4+ months, that's a second scenario. Those are two very different scenarios that we need to have a game plan established for. Bitcoin dominance chart is correlated to the dollar. Now we've been seeing clues of that, and it's just getting more and more clear. Look at the dollar bounce on day number 5 of this bounce, still in a daily downtrend, and the Bitcoin dominance chart is on day 5 or 6, still in a daily downtrend. $62 is the rejection line here with the triple top, and we need a clear daily trend change with a higher low and higher high to say that our temporary bottom is set. Same for the dollar. And the weekly time frame, we will just be looking at anything under 64.61 as a weekly lower high. ETH, very notable pullback, and I did take a loss on a swing position. I described it in depth to members in a video yesterday, so not going to go as in depth, but pretty much bottom line is I psychologically was looking for a break from trading on this long holiday weekend, and that started on Thursday. And of course, the markets went nuts on Thursday and Friday. Didn't get a break then. Next thing I know, I'm in a ETH swing trade attempt, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be watching the charts every day. And so I just said, you know, this is a bad trade, and I'm not in control of this trade, and I don't want to be in it anymore. So I exited the rest of it last night at 4-hour 12-period exponential resistance in the 350s, and it was a couple day maker of a loss. And I would much rather take that day maker of a loss and reset myself psychologically as opposed to still being in that trade and constantly monitoring the chart. So that was just a check-in for myself personally. I would much rather admittedly take that loss and be able... Last night, I stopped looking at the charts for 14 hours in a row. And for me, that was a big victory. And that time is more valuable than trying to salvage some gains on that bounce. So I'll take that loss. Start with a fresh, clean slate, be patient and wait for a setup that I like. And at this point, again, higher low trying to form here. 310 is the bottom. 323 is trying to be a 4-hour higher low. And the bulls would have to break 361 if we're going to see a convincing trend change. And that 4-hour exponential resistance was a bit of a guide for me last night to just say, all right, enough's enough. Take that little red loss. Decent red loss for a crypto trade for me in 2020, but fortunately, stocks have been nice, so I will gladly absorb that loss, admit the mistake. And when we see the 4-hour trend change, just like on Bitcoin, we're looking for a daily lower high on ETH, anything under 489. Tons of space for that daily lower high to form. And you better believe that once bears give up on this 4-hour downtrend, they're just going to take a step back and they're going to patiently be waiting for daily lower highs for an entry. And we'll be watching daily 12-period exponential resistance for that potential level. Ethbtc lost the daily uptrend, significant pullback, weekly consolidation underway. Weekly exponential support is still holding, and that's the case for ETH as well. We're grinding right at that level. So bigger picture, if the weekly exponential 12-period support, which has held the last 2 tests on this way up, if that holds, that's a big victory. You know, if September holds that level, that's a point in favor of the Bitcoin monthly higher low and potential continuation scenario. We can see Bitcoin has already lost that exponential support, but again, ETH standing out stronger versus Bitcoin over the last bunch of months, and that is something to be watching closely as well. But the ETH-BTC chart, once we get a bounce going, we will just be looking for a daily lower high here as well. Some altcoins have had much more significant percentage bounces, and Link is one of those. The daily bounce is already underway. Doesn't change that we're still looking for a lower high compared to 1774, but the bulls have a lot more space to work with as far as cushion. So here's our 4-hour higher low trying to form anything above 975, and we formed it, you know, a solid 15% above that level, whereas Bitcoin held its support by 1%. Very big difference. So the bulls are trying to see a bit of an inverse head and shoulders here, where we've got our left shoulder, this is our head, our neckline. Right neckline's a little bit higher than the left neckline, but we still need that 4-hour trend change. So bulls have to break 1340 for the 4-hour trend change, which we would then zoom out and look for the daily lower high from there. Could this be a daily bear flag? Yes, but that would mean Bitcoin probably has to drop down to 9,500 or below if that were going to confirm as a daily bear flag. Another reason why I exited my trades was all RSI levels have cooled off. So as I was scaling in, it was because of overextended RSI levels. And once that's no longer the case, that is a clear indication to me, okay, your reasoning for being in the trade is no longer the case. It's another reason that I wanted to go back to a fresh, clean slate. Binance also had a very significant bounce. They had some news with their staking being involved. Google Binance staking for some more fundamental information on that. So a very significant bounce off the low. We went from 18 to the 23s. That's a solid 25, 30% bounce. And now I would be watching 12-hour higher low is trying to form. Let's see what the 4-hour looks like. 4 hours, clear enough. Trying to form that 4-hour higher low. And I would expect an equilibrium here. 1, size of the bounce. 2, size of the retracement. That much volatility means equilibrium is the most likely scenario. So we'll scout a lower high compared to 23.55 on this bounce and a tightening 4-hour range. Definitely a more favorable altcoin, both Link and BNB with the size of their bounces, but still a lot of work to do as daily lower highs are still the most likely scenarios. Sushi, so a lot of drama around Sushi with news. Again, gotta go to Google if you want to look up the fundamentals, but essentially they had one of their main, I believe it was the developer, that ended up exiting up near the highs, led to a massive sell-off. Then you have someone from the FTX exchange stepping in, saying, all right, we're going to take over development here. And then the people are saying, well, that's just because they have such a huge bag and they're trying to salvage it. Either way, you got to be extremely cautious on this name. 4-hour, 12-period exponential resistance is a bit of a brick wall, and the bulls have to get over 350 if we're going to see any kind of bounce follow through. This is about as high risk, high reward as you can get in the cryptocurrency space right now. A ton of people lost a ton of money. Just keep that in mind, because when you see any kind of bounce recovery from that kind of scenario, you have all these people, and this goes to for technical analysis in general, when you're coming from a big long downtrend and you resume an uptrend, all these people say, oh, I got a second chance, I can sell. And there's a lot more selling pressure on the way back up and a lot more resistance to get through because of all those people who did not sell, had big red positions, and then view it as a second chance. And as far as the S&P 500 goes, we're looking for that to be the case as well. You know, SPY dropped so hard and fast that on this bounce, we're watching for lower highs in a lot of names because, again, it's giving people a second chance to potentially take profits where they may have missed the chance to do so the initial time around. XRP USD continues to be one of our weak names, and showing XRP because there's a lot of names that look like this on the weekly chart. XTZ is another one. They already had significant weekly consolidation underway, and then Bitcoin broke down, leading to even more significant consolidation. And XRP, again, is a bear's best friend, technically speaking. It's one of the weaker coins and has been all of 2020, and the monthly downtrend is very much still intact, whereas most coins broke their monthly lower highs over the last few months. 346, monthly lower high. New monthly lower high is now 329, and the bulls must form a monthly higher low, ideally holding 16.9. But again, you're not going to find many coins that are in a clear monthly downtrend still at this point, and XRP is one of those names. So that's where we stand overall. As far as today goes, 4 hour, we need a 15-minute trend change to confidently set that 4 hour higher low. It's a great bounce off the lows, but we need that 15-minute trend change. If we get it, we zoom out, we say, okay, 4 hour higher low convincingly set. Can we break resistance to change the 4 hour trend? That is the question that we have for the rest of today into tonight. Can the 4 hour trend change? If it does, we zoom out and scout daily lower highs, as we know bears will be scouting those lower highs as well. So lots to be thinking about. Pretty long video here. Big picture and small shorter term time frames. Establish your game plan. Clearly, this is the biggest shift in momentum away from the bulls that we have seen in a pretty long time. And now we're watching for follow through. Again, if we get a weekly higher low forming and then fail to break the high and confirm a weekly downtrend, odds that our 2-month lower high has been set will increase significantly. And we'll continue to check in on that 2-month time frame, the most important chart and time frame for me in the cryptocurrency space over the last few months, and it will continue to be that way until it breaks and resolves. Have a good rest of your day. Do good things out there. We'll see you soon. Check out these beans. That's insane. Oh man, they're fuzzy, and that's my first time touching them. It's fuzzy and limp. Not a great squash harvest, but good enough for some soup. I had trouble with some borer bugs that would go into the stems of the squash and kill them off before we could get too many fruit.